Hello and welcome back to Muddy River Studio. My name's Mark, and today we are going to make a face vase. And so here's an example of what that could look like. And if you're a hand builder like I am, always looking for new ways to create something. And so what I like to do is take things that you find around from the household and put them together. And we're going to jump right into it. So I'm going to take a form that I want to create, and I'm going to wrap a bags around it. And that's going to keep the clay from not sticking. And then I've already rolled out a slab of clay. So if you have a slab roller, great. If you don't have that, then you can just use a rolling pin. And I'm going to do this rather quickly for time. Certainly, if I was doing this without the camera, it might take a little bit more time to go through all of this. So now what I'm going to do is I've got a seam here, and you can do a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the camera down. To get a clean seam, if you can measure it where it just barely overlaps, that's going to be the cleanest seam. But you can also overlap, and this is going to hold water at some point. So that's okay. If it overlaps, that can be a good thing as well. Now, you can slip and score by using a little bit of water in between. This clay is right out of the bag. So for time's sake, I'm not going to spend too much time there, but you do want to clean the seam on the side as well as the inside. So what I like about using a piece inside is I can move it around a little bit. You can use paper. You can use just about anything. But what I've liked about using plastic forms is they have a little bit of give, but not too much. And then when I'm done, I can simply pull out, wrap, and the plastic piece and go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and just work that around. And now I've got the rest of my slab here. And I like to put a design on each side. If you're like me, you tend to turn pieces over and look at them and see what's underneath. I have my own stamp that I have. It says Muddy River Clay, and I'm going to put that on the bottom. And now I'm going to work that piece on. You can see my logos at the bottom, and this is going to be a vase, not a planter, so I don't need a drainage hole at the bottom. All right, so now that I've got that underneath, let's go ahead and clean up the top, and I'm going to just use lip to wrap that around. And now I've got a nice shape here that I can work in, smooth out. All right, so now I'm thinking about the face. For this one, I've decided I'm going to do a face, and then I'm also going to have some arms coming around, kind of hugging the piece together. Just a design I thought would be kind of fun. And again, I'm doing this quickly to keep your attention. Thanks for stopping by today. If you're a fellow potter or artist, thanks for checking out my videos and supporting the channel. So I start with the base of the nose. You could do a short nose. What I love about faces is everybody has a little bit different face. Use a little bit of water here. If you're newer to hand building, a little bit of water goes a long way. If you use too much, then you have to really work it in, and then it can lead to some other issues. So try not to use too much water. All right, I'm going to give my nose some definition, and then I'm going to take a tool and open up the nostrils. I'm not going to go all the way through, but I am going to go through the actual nostril area. And then if you're newer to hand building, most of your time is actually just cleaning up. You make a nose, it throws off the nostril, so then you have to go back in and clean it up, make it look more like a nostril. The other thing I'd recommend if you're newer to clay is to continually look at the piece from different angles. So right now I'm looking up the nostrils. I also want to take a look from the top and then think about the features that go around the nostrils. How does this nose fit in? All right, next up I've got eyes, and I'm going to start with two small balls of clay. And I like the eyes to be a little bit offset. So typically if you're looking at actual, where eyes should be, they would be about a nose length apart. But I like to set mine off a little bit off to the side just to make them a little more whimsical, give a little bit more character. Now, your iris and your pupil is really going to define the eyeball. I have a craft syringe here, and I'm going to use that to actually make the indentation of the eye. And then I can go around the eyelid just using a little piece of clay, and I'll need to go underneath here. So I first put these on each eye, and then I'll go ahead and work them in. Also should note for this video, but just in general, having a wheel that you can quickly move things around is really helpful. You can certainly just use the table, but you're constantly moving it. And as you get into hand building, it can be helpful to have some type of wheel just to move things around. All right, so now I am working that clay in and getting it to look as much like an eye as possible. I come in with a brush and just a little bit of water again. All right, so now my face is coming together. Now the eyes are the Was it the gateway to the soul? So they tell us a lot. So right now you have the opportunity. Do you want to close the lid? Do you want to keep it open? Does this little guy or gal have an attitude? That's all decided with the way the eyelid goes around the pupil here. All right, I'm adding some eyelashes here. Next, I'm going to keep moving on with the mouth. I like to start with the upper lip. And again, your placement of any of the parts gives it so much definition. I think this would be fun to have the mouth way down here. But in this case, I'm going to have arms. So I'm going to put it just underneath the nose where most of our lips begin. So start working in the divot. And again, to give you a different angle of where things sit, it's nice to take a look in different angles. So that's my upper lip. I'm going to go ahead, make it a smiley kind of face, add the divot, add those little creases in the lip, and then do the bottom lip. Tends to be a little bit smaller, and I'll work it in. All right. I'm going to keep moving on here. I certainly would spend a little bit more time if it were just me in the studio, but I've invited you here and you've stuck around so far, so thanks for that. Next, I'm going to go ahead and make ears. So I'm going to make 2 balls of clay, again, similar size. And these are going to go just outside of the eyes. Try and get them as close to the same size as possible and try and line them up when the piece is laying down so you can get them as close as possible. And then you can stand the piece up and get a little bit better view. Start working in the clay. Okay, and now we have ears. All right, so let's see how we're looking there. Pretty good. You can see the eyes being far apart. Definitely gives this guy some personality. Need to attach the ears just a little bit better. Come in here with the brush. I'm not going to add more water, but it's got some moisture on there. I find with hand building, if you're new to it, you're just constantly going back. So how's that? Edge looking. You're just continually touching it up to give your piece personality. All right. Means an ear hole. I'm not going all the way through. Just a little bit there. All right. So the bulk of this face is done. Let's go ahead and work on the body. So now what I want to decide is what goes on underneath the face. I'm going to go ahead and start with the body this way. And I'm going to go ahead and add a shirt first. So this guy is wearing a striped shirt. And then when I glaze that later, I can glaze those all different colors. I shared that he was going to have 2 arms to kind of hug around. So I'm going back to my slab that I have. And I'm going to create 2 equal size arms, or as equal as possible. So I'll show you what that looks like here. So I have 2 pieces, and these are going to be the arms. And I like that they already have some texture to them. So now you want to think about that arm placement. So I'm going to go roughly about the ear, and that looks a little thick. So I'm actually going to split that in half. And that's the thing with hand building. You can certainly measure out all of your pieces, but you can also take a look and see how's that looking. That looks like a more proportionate arm for this guy. And so if he were actually doing a hug, it might look something like that. I'm going to come together at the central one here. And that's how that's looking. Now I want to make sure that this is attached really well. So I'm going to come in here and squish in the clay, make sure that connects. And to make sure it's really connected, I'm going to do a couple other things. I'm going to take this tool, which just has a nice visit. And then I really want to make sure this piece is connected. So I want to make sure these arms have connection, going over them with some pressure, having additional contact points. The other thing that you can do is add in some texture, such as this shape, which will help push the clay in and give it additional design elements. Thanks. All right. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit off camera. One last element I'm going to add is hands are not easy to do. Doing actual fingers and toes and specific things can be kind of difficult. So what I'm going to do is take shape and create a flower. This one looks good. It's a rose. So I've got my slab. Still working on that slab piece that I started earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you this here in a second. I'm going to push in this wood stamp, which had that rose-looking flower. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to the hands. And then this guy is going to be holding that rose. Guy, gal, I'm deciding. And yeah, make sure it's attached. And so when I glaze that piece, this will be a central element. I'm going to go ahead and just make sure it's attached. And now we're just about done. So what else could we do? At the very top here, as I wind down, I'm going to use this rolling tool and just go around the eye. Do the same thing on the other side. We're just about done. So let's take a quick look from a different angle. So my goal with this quick video was to create a face vase. This was the one I showed you before. This one certainly took some different turns. So I'm going to take a tool. This could be a long tool. It could be the brush. And I'm going to go ahead and clean up that seam. So I'm going along the seam and I'm making sure that it touches in all areas. There aren't any holes. Use just a little bit of water here. Go around. I'll clean this off a little bit more off camera. But really important if you're going to have a vessel that holds water or a plant or flowers or something, that those seams are cleaned up. All right. Here we go. Really short project, less than 20 minutes. I'd love to see your designs. If you have them, please share, and you can catch me over at muddyriverclay.com. Thanks for watching today. Have a wonderful day.